A lot of people in Atlanta know what's happening. Some of them have been paid. Others have been frightened into silence. You're watching the destruction of an innocent American's rights, their freedom, their personal and business rights, their First and Fourth Amendment rights. The motive is intellectual property theft, personal property theft, with a twisted type of jealousy and revenge. Several goons have been sent to threaten me. One said, "In a digital world, everything can be hacked." He told me that my business and my personal life would be slowly strangled and that all of my communications would be cut. A crisp $100 bill was showing in his portfolio the last time we talked. In a military offensive, the first step is cutting your opponent's communications. I was threatened with a fire, and several weeks later, a fire of uncertain origin destroyed the house next door. My home just narrowly escaped destruction as well. My car was totaled in a set-up accident. The police were on hand but did not file a report. The list goes on and on. I can fill in those details later. Verizon is my telephone company, and Verizon is known for being very conservative. I wrote Lowell McAdam, the president of Verizon, asking for help with my telephone misrouting problems, but never received a response. A copy of that letter is posted on happinesshacker.com. I had the same weird telephone misrouting problems when I was with T-Mobile and AT&T. When I call companies with large customer service groups, I repeatedly get the same customer service representative over and over and over again. And that person gives me wrong, inaccurate, and often injurious information. This is a statistical impossibility. Inbound telephone calls to large customer service groups are distributed randomly to the next available agent. It's statistically impossible to get the same customer service representative over and over again. When I call real estate companies about properties they're advertising for sale, I get these weirdly angry, abrupt, disapproving voices and a speedy hang-up. The property is never available, even though they're advertising it for sale. One would think that at least you get a warm, welcoming tone of voice. I get lots of complaints that I don't return calls which I never receive. My company has great products and a good marketing plan, but I never receive any real responses from our marketing efforts. When I say things on the telephone the monitors don't like, bad static suddenly erupts on the line or the call just drops. When I make calls to new telephone numbers I haven't dialed before, the calls never go through on the first or even the second try. They need time to call the number, find out who it is, hear how it's answered, so they can spoof the call. I'm not talking about f.i.s.a. or Patriot Act call monitoring. This is deliberate disruption and redirection of our telephone calls with the intent to defraud. Our communications are being effectively cut, and we are being intentionally isolated. I have an MBA in finance and 20 years senior-level consulting in telecommunications. I know a good deal about how telephone call routing systems work. My personal and business email, both inbound and outbound, is also filtered and redirected. See Earthlink's response on happinesshacker.com for an explanation about how this can happen when private contractors monitor our communications. My home, my office, and my van are regularly and obviously searched. Key business files and notes are stolen. Personal computers and business equipment are sabotaged. Favorite t-shirts are slashed. Yes, slashed. Clothing and personal items are deliberately stained. Key business and personal items often mysteriously disappear at critical times. Sometimes they even mysteriously reappear when I no longer need them. When I cut my finger and had 7 stitches in my hand, all my ACE bandages mysteriously disappeared. As soon as my hand was healed and I no longer needed them, my ACE bandages mysteriously reappeared. All the windows in my home are pinned shut, and all the exterior keyholes in the doors are filled with putty so they can't be picked. The one exception is my front door that has a high security lock. The only way into my steel office building is through a security door with a high security lock. The locksmith just laughs when I tell him about my problems. Could it be a clear sign of complicity with the crimes? Who are these home invaders? So far, they've left all my jewelry and silverware alone, which could easily be pawned, so it's not the work of petty criminals. Some of the personal items that have been taken indicate one is a man who was sent to date me. Another is an unemployed neighbor whose parents supposedly worked for the Department of Defense, or at least that's how he explains all the DOD parking stickers on all of his cars. There are many other people who we know are involved, and there is an unfortunate overlap between these crimes and the Catholic and the Episcopal Church. Why is all of this happening? To weaken, discredit, and demoralize me, and to keep me from fighting for my parents' estate. My mother died in February of 2007 at age 92. A New York, Park Avenue, maritime attorney neighbor of my parents engineered the theft of my parents' estate. This New York, Park Avenue maritime attorney has close ties with large, powerful oil shipping interests. We were a letter-writing family, and I have decades and stacks of long, loving, handwritten letters from my parents, both of whom were physicians. There is no question but they loved both of their children very much, and they wanted their estate evenly divided between their children. In 1990, after my father died, the Park Avenue maritime attorney told me that I was powerless to stop what was happening. I didn't understand what he meant at the time, but I do now. Power and powerlessness has been a constant theme, threat, and tactic. Trying to make you feel powerless is central to their strategy. Many of the tactics I've experienced seem oddly similar to descriptions of Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay interrogations. One of the techniques they use is turning you into a test target or training target for government-funded research by private government contractors. These private government contractors operate with immunity and impunity. This allows them to pay the perpetrators and get people and law enforcement to cooperate and cover for them. They say it's secret government work that can't be questioned. The target is treated like a terrorist. All their movements are tracked. Their communications are carefully monitored and filtered. Government contractors appear to tell all the target's contacts that they are of interest to the government. People are asked to refrain from doing any business with the target and to report on all their interactions with them. The time, the level of attention and resources all this is consuming is way out of proportion to the size of my parents' estate. Why does it continue? We believe I have been intentionally targeted for government-funded research to develop and test systems to disable and discredit dissidents. For more information about this, see defend-dissent.com. My contact information is posted on happinesshacker.com, but you may have trouble getting through to me. With luck, I'll find you. I truly hope this never happens to you or to anyone you know or love. This is Happiness Hacker from Atlanta, Georgia.